See how long it takes it to move on. Meetings being live streamed.
Well, you're streaming this right now. It's not live, it's just buffering. It takes a minute. So it's everything we're doing now will be on the stream.
Let's go. Well, Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, we are back. This is the Just Okay Sports Podcast. I'm Wonder Reveal J. It's Daryl. I'm here with my brother, Jared, and we've never live streamed before, so we're kind of finding our way through it.
Whoa.
Oh, sorry. Let back up. I've never done the live stream thing before, so yeah.
My brother has a passing familiarity with what the internet even is. So,
what is that?
Yeah, it's a thing. There's cats on it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's funny because I actually pulled up the stream just to make sure everything was good. And it's like, you're like, oh, I hope it goes live soon. I'm like, dude, everything we're doing right now is happening. It's just, there's a delay. But yeah, no, we're live streaming now. So, hopefully we get some of the boys in the chat from the Discord.
We shall see. Yeah. We didn't really give anybody a very big heads up on this, so there probably is no one, but again, it's kind of our trial run here, so we'll see what happens. But speaking of that, one thing that would help us a lot is if you guys are willing to subscribe to the YouTube channel, or subscribe or follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all those different things. That would be wonderful as well. We would greatly appreciate it. So it would help us out a lot and be exciting for us to see all that stuff and try to get this to grow a little bit, all that to say. So please feel free to do all those things, check all those things out. If you are live with us and in there, please hit the chat because we are going to try to talk a lot of stuff tonight, but we really want to do the live stream because, again, just to remind you, we're not journalists. We're not insiders. We're not whatever. We are just fans that get together and talk Sooner football. And so your input has as much validity as anything that we have to say. Every once in a while, do we get lucky to find a tip here or there? Sure. But again, we're not some higher, entity or holier than thou of football. Again, just fans wanting to talk it all out. And work it all out. So anyways, that's us. Jared, you're in Florida. You're in a hurricane. So by the way, can we just clown on Troy for a little bit? His life is so busy, he can't do the pod tonight. While you, on the other hand, are surviving a global warming phenomena of severe hurricane hitting Florida, and you are still on the pod.
Yeah. No, I'm going to have Troy's back here. It didn't do anything here. We had some power flashes. That was about it. I had like 3 or 4 power flashes, and they were today. Like, I didn't even. Our dad called me today, and was like, he's like, yeah, make sure you're okay and everything. I'm like, dude, Dad, it's like, I was like, it's dark, like out to the west, the skies are real dark, and then I was like, right over me, it's like sunshine, like it's done. I wouldn't even say. I was even told him, I was like, it wasn't even where I am. It wasn't even like severe thunderstorm levels. Like it rained. It like there was probably about a 30-minute to an hour where like the rain level was probably pretty high, but that was basically it. So and as a matter of fact, so I have a Florida man story because of the hurricane. Are you ready for this?
Oh gosh, okay.
So
I don't know if I really am, to be honest, but like here we go.
I walked out to the mailbox yesterday evening. It was like 5-6 o'clock. The house next to me is like, I don't really know like if they own the house or they're renting it. I think they bought the house, but I don't know. I guess one of them did. But there's like 4 or 5 people that live there that go to UCF, right?
Okay.
And one of them came over and she was like, "Hey, like we're having a hurricane party. Like, so if you want to come over, or whatever, you're like, and she's like, if we're too loud, whatever." And I was
Oh, so
like,
she was hitting on you. Okay, I see where this is going now. Yeah, okay. All
yeah,
right.
I don't
Now I
think
know
so.
why you wanted to tell this story.
Yeah, it almost feels. I mean, it's weird now because like I don't feel like I'm that old, but I'm also like I'm 35, so a college girl hitting on me is a little weird. Um, but anyways, yeah, they had a big party last night. There was like 20 people at their house, and like they were just having a time. It was like nobody cares. Like, and it was so funny because like I had people messaging me like late last night, like, hey, like the storm's getting bad. Like, are you evacuating? I'm like, no, that's like all over in the panhandle and like the like it's all nowhere near me. So like I don't even have to worry about it. So yeah, it wasn't a big deal, but it was like it's funny because like literally people here were throwing parties because of the hurricane. It's like that's how little. But shit, like I'm in Orlando, so it's kind of like we're far enough inland that like unless like a super massive hurricane came from the East Coast,
Right.
just had enough energy. It's like nothing's going to come that far from the west and be able to do as. I mean, not to say it couldn't do some damage, but it's not going to. It's going to dump most of its rain and its wind and all that stuff. Like most of its energy is going to be gone by then. So,
Sure.
but yeah, so I got my first hurricane experience. It wasn't that big a deal. Everybody, literally, like I was like asking people, and like everybody was like, "Dude, it's whatever." Like nobody, literally, I had nobody except one person that's from New York that moved down here was like, "Oh my god!" Like the hurricane. Everybody else was like, "I don't care." Like all longtime residents, like it's whatever. It's like it's such a
So,
different. It's just such a different attitude than you would think.
well, what it is, it's the same attitude as Oklahoma people with a tornado, right? You start getting the text, go, "Hey, I see a tornado's by. Are you okay?" And it's like I'm standing on my front porch about to take pictures of it. Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's fine. Like, well, it's it is what it is. So everybody down there gets used to it and all those good things. But speaking of a hurricane, college football is upon us. It is here. The storm that we hope will be a ridiculously suffocating, physical, nasty Venables defense returning to us in 2023 is all of what, like 48 hours, 72 hours away here. And so it's time to talk about it. So obviously some of the big things, the depth chart comes out this week. And so let's just start there. Jared, was there anything about the depth chart? I know it's kind of been talked about some already, but was there anything for you that stood out on the depth chart for you that really kind of caught your eye or you thought was good or bad or anything else?
Well, I mean, yeah, there's a few things that I think surprised a whole lot of people. Like we have Marcus Major and Tawi Walker as basically and or RB1, right?
Right.
So which was a little weird just because I mean I think Sawchuk and Barnes are a little banged up, but still kind of almost a little surprising, which we've heard a lot of good things about Tawi. So that's I guess maybe we'll see. Like he's been really impressive in the spring games that he's played in. And like I said, the coaching staff's really hyped him up. And then obviously the other one to me was Andrew. Is it Andrew or Andrew? Is it Andrew?
On I've heard it both ways.
Anthony.
Anthony is the one I've heard the most.
Yeah, him being wide receiver one was pretty like he is the starting receiver. There's no or next to his name. So that was a little not to say like because I think we all thought he had potential, but just the fact that I guess for him it's just that the fact that I think it's so clear that he's the number one. So there's a lot. I think there's a lot. And then the only other one that really surprised me was Key Lawrence is behind Reggie Pearson. I mean, I think they're listed. Yeah, they're listed as or, but still, it's kind of like we kind of talked about this a little bit where it was like Key Lawrence keeps having those flashes, but it's like I now it's like it makes sense in a way of has he done anything that he would have locked down that position? Like Woody Washington,
right?
Probably done enough to lock down his position, or Danny Stutzman, or I don't know. You go down the list, Drake Stoops. Like I think you knew when you got the depth chart that those guys were going to be kind of ahead of the pack or whatever, right? Of their position groups.
Sure.
But the fact that Key Lawrence isn't, that he's sharing an or spot with Reggie Pearson is kind of a little. I mean, maybe Pearson's that good. I don't know.
I mean, I kind of anticipated Pearson to be the starter personally. But I mean, yeah, you'd heard good things about Key as well, right? But my big thing with Key Lawrence has been, yes, the flashes, but the one consistent thing he's done poorly is tackle, especially in space. Like, he doesn't take great angles, and those, and we were joking that one day they were, they let the media come do their filming of, just practice sessions, and even like just in a drill one day, he doesn't even make the angle on a guy in a drill, like completely whiffs on a guy. And it's like, okay, man, like that's obviously just the weak point. And I think that that's a strong point for Reggie, whereas I would guess, my guess would be, I don't know yet, that in pure coverage situations, Key probably has maybe a little better feel. Pearson likes to get up in the box and tackle a little better, but maybe he has shored that up and sounded that up. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think the big scuttle among everybody was the Towie Walker, backup situation. But again, from everything you can gather through, internet reading, all that stuff, it sounds like Barnes and Sawchuk have both been banged up a little bit here at the end of camp. And, those guys are going to get rewarded. And I mean, look, if anybody thought Marcus Major wouldn't be the starter if he went through fall camp healthy, I mean,
well, I think everybody, like, the thing with Marcus Major is it's like every year it feels like he's had like those really great moments, and then he just fades away. Like, and you're like, is the dude even on the roster? You know what I mean?
Well, it's not even fading; it's injuries, though. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, when he's healthy, he plays really well.
But that's what I mean is, like, he even, like, when he's had times throughout his career. I don't know if it was last year, or year before, where like he had a really good, he was having a really good season or had some good games, and then gets injured, and it's like he's going to be down for a couple of weeks, but then he gets buried on the depth chart because you have somebody else step into the role. This year could be like, say it happens this year and Sawchuk and Barnes are healthy. It's like, then he's going to get buried again, probably. So that's what I mean, is that he kind of fades the back from it is due to injuries, but it's like, they haven't even hardly, like, I don't even think last year, I don't know when the last time they utilized them, or the year before. It's like there was times that he was still healthy, or that he was healthy and he still wasn't utilized. But that kind of gives me, that kind of leads me to a question of mine to you.
Okay.
Do you feel like we can be honest, we're playing Arkansas State, right? Do you feel like when you look at this depth chart, do you feel like there's some guys that they're giving a shot? Like, because if you look at it, there's some of like the more senior guys on the team that you're like thinking like, I don't know if I'd put them one necessarily, like that wouldn't put them as a lock-in. Do you think that maybe Brent's giving them a chance in this game to prove in a game moment that they deserve that starting spot long term, right? Like, do you think there's a little bit more experimentation, I guess is a simple way to put it, with the depth chart compared to going forward?
No, I don't think so. So let me say what I think, and then you can tell me maybe I'm misunderstanding your question, but I don't think there's as much experimentation going as much as this is a nod of appreciation to guys that have grinded through, right? Yeah. Like, now I think he's giving them not a chance to be the starter. I think he's giving them a chance knowing this is a team that they should have outmatched in such a way to let them get their time, let them get a lot of snaps, and then slowly work in the youth movement that you want to see happen. And so I don't think it's an experimentation. I think it really is to just give a steady, calm start to the game. Let the young guys feel it. Let them hear the crowd, all the stuff. And then I think as the weeks move along, you're going to see those youngsters, as long as they stay healthy, start moving their way up that depth chart. Does that make sense? I felt like it was more of that, of like a Towie Walker, a guy that came as a walk-on, has remained a walk-on, done everything you asked him to do. Brent, just listen to Brent's comment. He's consistent, and his best ability is availability. None of that's a glowing review, right? The most glowing review he got was he always falls forward, which is a good thing. That's a positive, right? But he didn't say like, oh, dude, he's been breaking them off, right? Like, oh, we can't wait to see this guy. He's available, he's consistent, he falls forward. We're gonna go with that guy, right? And I think you'll see Caleb Hicks. If Barnes and Sawchuk are banged up, I think you're going to see Hicks come in as soon as the game gets to a comfortable point, and they're going to turn him loose, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with some of that. I mean, my thing is like I guess it's kind of like I think you agree with me to some degree. Maybe you're just like going more towards the motive of it. But like to me, it's like you're giving these guys when you're playing a game like this where you're playing an opponent you should dominate. Um, then it's like you can give them a little bit of play. You know what I mean? Like you can give them like they have a little bit more room. It's like you're not going to do this against Texas or whoever. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The only one that doesn't like the one thing that kind of torpedoes that a little bit, and it really is interesting, and I want to get your thoughts on this too, real quick. DJ Graham is like third on the depth
Yeah.
card, which
Yeah,
is sad because like I was really pulling for him.
I know.
So and maybe it's one of those things. Maybe he gets a shot. It's
Right. I I have a feeling with DJ Graham, and this is just a gut feeling. I think if there is anybody on this roster that just makes you go to practice and go, but when the lights come on, like you might watch and go, oh, right. I think DJ might be one of those guys. Like, I mean, just thinking about the spring game, right? Like, did we see him run an excellent route per se? I mean, he ran some good routes, right? Like, moved well. He's not slow, he's plenty fast enough. But the catches he made, the tough contested catches he made in that game alone just make you go, dude, like, even if he can't get that open, this guy's going to catch everything that comes to him, right? And so I'm hoping that he gets on the field because I've heard there's probably a few receivers that are banged up a little bit right now as well. And I hope he just turns it on and goes nuts. And then maybe in SMU, he can do the same to where maybe his practice doesn't earn his trust of the coaches as much. It's just, dude, every time we put this guy in the game, something good happens, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it's good happens. And so I'm hoping maybe that for him, because I'm the same. Obviously, I'm going to be changing my pick because this is my last chance to do so.
Oh, okay.
I picked DJ Graham to be not only the breakout player on the offense, I also picked him to be the leading receiver for OU this season. That's not going to happen. So I will definitely get away from that for sure. So and not do that one without a shadow of a doubt. But yeah, I mean, I think some of that. So let me ask you this, just one more on the depth chart. How surprised were you that Ethan Downs was the starter?
I mean, yeah, but he is, but there's a lot of like when you look at this depth chart, there's a lot of ors, right?
Yes.
So it's Ethan Downs or Trace Ford.
Right.
So yeah, but that aside, yeah, I'm still surprised. But again, I think like maybe it's that's kind of even like it's things like that sort of led me to the whole what is the reasoning behind that as far as like why is it that way? Because it's like I said, you would think Trace Ford would dominate Ethan Downs' chance to play,
right.
Or even like honestly, even Grimes probably, like there's just a lot of guys that so far have seen it. But again, it's like it's also, I guess here's my hopium for it. We've seen that Ethan Downs has apparently gone through some changes as far as physically. They've they've changed his his workout style. He's gained, I think he lost weight and then gained a little back, like I think they're trying to make him a little bit more lean and quick, so if that's the case, maybe he's been improved that much. I don't know. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it does surprise me a little bit, but there's this game we should see. The thing that people need to keep in mind, because I have seen some people freaking out about the depth chart on Twitter and whatever else. And it's like, look, guys, like it's Arkansas State. It's the first game of the season. You're going to see there's going to be a ton of rotation. We're going to see a lot of the freshmen play. You're probably going to see Jackson Arnold play. You're going to see a lot of guys get some stuff in garbage time, especially. So it's like, this is going to be their time. This is their time. They're going to treat this. And I almost hate saying it because I hate talking about it, even though I know it's Arkansas State. I hate talking about teams like that, but it's like in the third or fourth quarter, you should be just being able to experiment. Like at that point, you should be able to have it almost treat it like a scrimmage and say, let's throw a freshman out there. like you said, let him hear the roar of the crowd, be in the big stage, and see how he handles it. So I think there's a lot of that going on across it. And I think they're going to do that throughout the game, but it'll obviously get more and more as the game goes on. So, but I mean, how shocked were you because I know, like, I don't want to say you're not an Ethan Downs fan, but you haven't been a guy that you thought Ethan Downs is the caliber that we need.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, which by the way, shout out to Kamiar over at Bud Berry Bob and Beer. That was a fun crossover we did, but kind of like we were saying with them, like you're rooting for the kid to do great. Because again, he has done nothing but bleed crimson, right? He's an Oklahoma Preps kid, which I mean, even this podcast, we try to cover some of these kids that are in the state that are great players because that's what we focus on. It's what we're about, and we love seeing those kids on the roster. I mean, we were two of the guys, like many. I mean, I'm not trying to make it sound like we're the only ones, but I mean, all of us were clamoring for more Oklahoma kids on the roster, and he comes in and just does nothing but everything you ask and more, right? But again, there is a lack of athletic ability there at that position. Now, we'll see, maybe the drop in 15 pounds will make him a little lighter on his feet. But again, I just don't see a lot of bend. I don't see a lot of twitch there. I see a kid that's really strong and plays with incredible motor, incredible effort. But again, I think you're insane to think that Bothroyd and Ford are not ahead of him right now. Yeah, I think you're crazy if you don't believe that even R. Mason Thomas is ahead of him right now. And look, if you actually give snaps to PJ Adebawore, he's going to surpass him by the end of the year, right? So I mean, that's kind of where it's at. Again, I feel like it's a nod a little bit to you have helped set the culture here, right? You have helped set the standard. You've helped us strip this down to the studs and build it back up. Let's go see what you can do, And again, you're never going to watch a game and be disappointed in his effort. Let's be honest. We've seen some teams in years past where the effort has been questioned, and that's not going to happen with Ethan Downs on the field. So yes, a little bit of a shock. But again, not totally. I think I kind of understand why they're there and why they're doing what they're doing. So that'll be that. Now, that's the depth chart. Was there anything from BV's press conference or any interview? Did you even get to watch any of that this week? We didn't even talk about this before.
I did see what was it that BV said about just a funny thing. Sorry, Kylo. My dog is wanting to voice his opinion now. What was it? If he got some post got 1 million likes or something, then he was gonna do frost tips on his hair.
Yeah, but I watched the whole clip. He never agreed to that. It was like the account just put that out there. Like maybe they talked with him offset. I don't know. But if you go watch that clip, he never says it.
BV would probably would do that. Honestly, I think he would do something. He's very engaged with the fan base and I'm sure the players are going to want it and stuff like that. So I feel like he would probably do it. But anyway, just kind of a funny thing, I thought. But yeah, I mean, I do feel like one thing, like this is kind of like not anything probably that you want to talk about, but he isn't as much like we were talking about. I think we talked about it with Kamiar about like how he was so bad about ranting on. And, he didn't seem like he ranted on as much. It doesn't seem like he's trying to show his hand as much. So I think that they have worked with him a lot on that. It doesn't feel like it still feels like Brent. It just didn't feel like they wouldn't ask him a question and then him go on for 15 minutes and talk about every player on the roster. Yeah. So that felt a lot better.
So we have not talked about this in a public forum. We talked about it a little bit off camera with Kamiar last week, but so here's my insider thing that I know that's probably not a secret really to anybody, but probably other people don't think it's as big of a deal as I do. But I have been fortunate enough to be invited to be a part of this leadership training program that's a national chain. It's a big to do deal, right? And they've done some great stuff with some big Fortune 500 companies, things like that. And so anyways, going through that, talking with the guy that helps run my deal, he randomly mentions, yeah, we're actually starting to do this with the OU football program. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. And one of the big things this program focuses on is the different personalities of people, right? How they like to communicate, how they, all that stuff, how they like to be communicated with, etc. And so, I just know, even for me, I'm a ranter. If you listen to this podcast, I can't keep my answers short. And so that's one of the things they really work with you on, is concising your thoughts, right? And getting it to the point and not rambling on. And I've been telling Jared for a while, look, I've known about this for a few weeks. Let's watch some press conferences, see how it goes. And his answers have been, he has not given a 9-minute answer to a question, right? Like my favorite last year was with RJ Young. RJ Young asked him one question, and that was the interview, because he took all 12 minutes to answer that one, right? He's not done that this year. And he used this word the other day. What have you been working on? He said efficiency. And I think what he means when he says that is, I've got to stop rambling, right? I got to, when we say we're doing team meeting for 15 minutes, it's 15 minutes. When it's coaches meeting for 30, it's 30. I can't absorb the room for 20 and then expand it into a 45-minute meeting, right? So I feel like that is something that he has worked on to get better at. And honestly, I think it will be better for the coaches and the players, because they're not losing time or being overwhelmed with so much information they can't process it.
Well, and I think that's, it's also about being precise in your speech, right? And I think that's a lot of things, like that's something that, like, even I think we saw last year was he would talk so much that people would find something he said and try to like extrapolate that into something else, right? Because there was just so much meat there that you could do that, right? Where if you're very precise in your speech, you leave less room for that to happen. So, I think he's getting better at that. But yeah, I mean, I unfortunately haven't got to watch. I watched part of his press conference, like his actual press conference, and then I watched a little bit of the what is that? The coach's corner, whatever that's. I watched a little bit of that, so I haven't got to watch either of those fully through. So, but yeah, I mean, I think he still seems like Brent. But even though with taking the ranting out of it, he seemed a little bit like he seems excited, but he also seems a little bit more. I won't say restrained, but I don't know how to describe. Like he's not nearly as intense. Maybe is that maybe how I would describe it.
I would just say free. I think what you see is him in those press conference settings. What I see is a guy going, okay, did I answer the question and I need to stop, right? Like it's just, whereas last year it was just it's who he is, right? Like, hey, what's the deal? Oh man, we got to get more physical, and we're really working on that. And so what we're doing is this and this, and that's a mentality thing, right? And this generation, they don't want to. In our generation, and he would just circle off, right? And then he'd come back to soul mission and this and that. And I feel like you see him going, okay, what was I asked? What do I need to say? Have I said that? And I'm done, right? So I think it's him really just trying to think, like you said, and be more streamlined and efficient in his time and with his answers. But yes, I think it comes off as more reserved, but I think it's him it's him being thoughtful so he doesn't take up the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the thing about Brent that I think it's like one of those things that it's like the whole ranting thing. It's like, it's because he's so passionate. You know what I mean? Yes. Like if you ever meet anybody that's super passionate about anything to like where it's like they live and breathe it, it's like that's Brent with football. And now that he's obviously the coach of Oklahoma, it's OU football. And he's like, that's what people have to realize too, is like, not to say he doesn't, obviously he has immense respect for Dabo and Clemson and those things, but he was at OU for 10 years previously, right? Like he's a large portion of his career and his growing up in his career was here. So he's got a lot of passion. He's very familiar with Norman. So that's why I think he was so excited last year. And I think there was so much for him to do that that's how he was. But yeah, but give me some of your thoughts. Hit me with what you thought, like, what are your takeaways?
I don't know that there was anything that just overly stood out. I thought he was a little more coach speak, but I would say the biggest thing that I have gone both ways with this. But everybody's kind of, scratched at him all offseason about, as you've evaluated yourself, what is it that you feel like that you've had to work on or address or get better at, going into this next year, right? And I feel like that's their very pansy way of asking, hey, time management was terrible last year. Have you improved it? Right? Like, game management had, but here's what he said. He said, I have had to realize that I am who I am. And the thing that they were asking about, because part of that question, I'm sorry, I didn't frame it well. They were trying to ask him about that. And they even asked about his role with the offense and defense and balancing that. And he said, I know defense and I need to be fully involved. And last year I was not. And there's a part of me that excites me because we had such a terrible defense last year that I think him fully involved with the defense makes them better, right? There's also a part that terrifies me because I wonder what that means for game management and time management and those things. But I think BV is smart though as well, and he is calculated. And I believe that they're going to have somebody on that staff that is their role, that they trust, that they think is going to be a head coach someday or whatever it is, to say, you are game managing the clock, right? Like that is your task while I'm chasing the defense down, while I'm signaling everything in and getting this and that going. That's going to be your deal. But that was the thing that probably stood out to me the most, that he admitted that he is going to fully immerse himself into the defense. I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that there was the comments that somebody asked Ted Roof and like his about some of the play calling and how is it managed, and basically said he calls the play, and then if Brent wants to override it, he can. Which I think we like kind of knew anyway. But it's a whole interesting dynamic, and it's hard for him because, like I said, it's people need to realize too that going from a defensive coordinator to a head coach is a totally different ball game. I would even say it's harder to go from a defensive coordinator to a head coach than it is from an offensive coordinator to a head coach to some degree. But anyway, it's been like you said, I think we're gonna have to see. That's one of the things that we even talked about in our previous pod was this one thing I highlighted is we saw some things that I described it as a freshman staff with clock management, with clock management, game management, those sorts of things. I want to see it. It's kind of one of those things that we need them to start seeing the forest for the trees. Like sometimes I felt like they got caught in that trap of let's just get this next play done. And in football, it's as much of a chess game as any other sport where you've got to start really looking at the whole next quarter or half or whatever. Like you really have to start the game planning ahead. And I don't think they did that much last year. So yeah,
that could very well be.
That's interesting. So
it will be interesting to see where it goes. Well, let's move on to Saturday, shall we? And let's look at Arkansas State. If you did not know, their head coach is Butch Jones, who I was actually listening to another podcast that previewed them as a team. And they said Butch Jones is like the rebound girl of Chip Kelly, because Chip Kelly was at Central Michigan. Butch Jones is at Central Michigan. Chip Kelly was at Cincinnati, then he went to Cincinnati. Like he's just kind of gone everywhere he's gone. But again, good recruiter. He has bumped them. I was actually listening to that podcast, and they said their last two recruiting classes like averaged in the 90s. And with Butch Jones, his first full year there to recruit, he bumped them all the way up into the 60s. Which again, I know is not, top 25, but for Arkansas State, that's a big jump, and so they have brought some talent in.
They're getting close to Oklahoma State levels of recruiting. So
well played.
They're getting close. They're close. Almost there.
Brady, I hope you're listening so much. I hope you're listening. And John, my friend John, I hope you're listening, but he would agree with you 100%. So anyway, they've done that. Now, what is interesting though is looking at this team from last year. They were ranked 117th offensively overall. Okay, so on the offensive side, they were 117. From a rushing offense standpoint, they were 127th, and they were 130th in yards per rush, right? So just starting on that side, that's the offense. versus the defense, I would say you feel pretty good, right?
Yeah, well, and especially because Levy's more of that run first mentality, right? Like, he's more of the like he's gonna grind it. I mean, he's more of the I hate even saying the name. He's more of that Bryles philosophy of the spread, right? Where you're still gonna run the ball and try to like, and he showed that last year at times. When he didn't want to go 3 and out on 3 passes. But anyway, so yeah, you feel good. And then, like you said, it's gonna give maybe that's going to give us a little bit of a chance to see, like you said, some Towie Walker and Marcus Major. We'll get to see them really shine and see them actually get some ooze because
well, hold on, just so because people may be confused at this point. All those stats was their offense. That was their rushing offense.
So, okay, sorry. Okay, then I misunderstood.
Yeah, so that's their rushing offense. And their offense overall was 117.
Yeah.
Their
okay.
rush
so yeah.
was 127.
Sorry. So yeah. I misheard you then. My bad. So
no problem.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think when you look at it, we're gonna see Downs and everybody that we've had any sort of doubts about should be able to do what they need to do, right? And obviously, I feel like even with Downs starting, I feel like your question marks are kind of more on the depth of the interior of your defensive line than it is the edge right now. So maybe you're going to be able to see some guys that rotate in that interior, and you're going to give them a little bit of time to push somebody around, because that's where you're going to win those sorts of matchups. And it's also going to be, I mean, the linebacker discipline, right? You know, how many times last year did we see? I think that was my thing. Is like it was in a Venables defense, the amount of details we talked about this. I remember if we talked it on with Kamiar, we talked about it on our pod. But it's like the fine details of like that 1%, you know, where it's like you had a guy. How many times was Danny Stutzman or whoever like literally a step away from making a play? I mean, literally 2 or 3 feet, right? And so you have those sorts of things, and it's like you should be able to fine tune those things in this sort of game and be able to use your athletic ability to still smother them. But that's where Brent's going to be able to put on film and say, look, like, yeah, you were able to chase that guy down because it's Arkansas State. But you know, you need to be another foot over, or you need to be a step this way. So I think this is a good scenario for that, but I feel good. I mean, this is going to get to showcase, like I said, Downs, Ford, Bothroyd, all those guys on the defense. Like when you really got a defensive line, there's a lot of guys we don't know what they're going to be at OU, is how I should put that, I guess. You know, we don't know what they're going to be. Like, we think they're going to be really good. They've got a lot of like Trace Ford. We've seen him on the field at Oklahoma State. How is he going to fit? That's like the thing that people have to understand, is how is he going to fit and how well is he going to play in a Brent Venables defense? And we're going to get to see that. And they should be able to dominate.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And it will be interesting. The other thing that is interesting, and I don't know for sure which of these guys are transfers or not. I do know they had some offensive linemen transfer in, but I do want to give these numbers. It was pointed out in the Discord today, and, you know, I think it's a somewhat valid point. Their left guard is 330 pounds. And I do believe that is their, no, sorry, it is not. It's their center. The center, I believe, is their transfer. He goes 315 pounds, and their right guard goes 350. So 350, 315, and 330. So I'm with you that while this defense should feast, right, on this offense, because it ain't very good, but let's see what they can do with a 350 pounder. Like, do we have guys, and he may not be the strongest, he may not have good pad level, he may not do, but 350 pounds hard to move, right? So if we talk about all the time in these non-conference games, for me, it's not even about the score, right? It's about the detail of the execution. So like the defensive line, okay, great. You held the line of scrimmage, and therefore they didn't get a lot of rushing yards. But what I should see is you knocking their offensive line backwards, right? Like that's what we should see against this talent level. And so that's what we want to look for, and that's what we want to see in this game. And if you can do that against a 350 and a 330 guy, okay, now we're cooking, right? And maybe we've got something that will go through the rest of the year. And so that'll be interesting. And I don't think I honestly think they're probably their most talented areas, their wide receivers, but their line was pretty bad last year. And if that's the case, I don't know how much they'll get to showcase against this, against our defensive backs necessarily.
Well, and you also, like, this is another thing that I think we've kind of talked about a little bit too, is that could be a good sign or a good chance for them to show the depth, maybe, like, or the rotation, right? Because, like, we talked a little about this, so I think especially if we, in the next few recruiting classes or years, if you keep those people in the boat, is like you could have where you have like a full on, like I said, I think it was under Montgomery, where you would like literally, it's like you had like a 3 deep. That's like you really couldn't see a major difference between the number 1 guys and the number 3 guys. Like you could tell a difference, but it wasn't like they weren't serviceable. So we may be able to see that, because if you're having to push a 350-pound guy around, like, you're going to get tired if they keep running the ball at you, right? So it's going to be, I think we may see a lot of that. I think we might see a lot of rotation on the defensive line.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So it really will be interesting to see how they go. But all that to say, from an offensive standpoint, this team is just not great. At least they were not last year. They're not changing quarterbacks. They're replacing a lot of offensive linemen. If there is a time for this defense to look elite, this is it, right? Like you need to come out and look. And when I say elite, they need to look dominant into the second and third guys on the depth chart, right? Like, you need to put.
They need to look dominant. They need to look dominant in garbage time.
Yeah, 100%, right? And there may be a mental bust or something, but it needs to be very clear that you are better athletically and on top of your game way more than the other team at that point. So that's that side. I have lost my stats. My phone is locked up currently for the offensive side, but I do know that their defense. Their defense was also right around the 100 range last year, in the 80s and 90s last year. Look at this, and look, their defensive line is the opposite of the offensive line. It's all a bunch of guys in the 280s, 270s across that front line. Their edges are even like down in the 230s. Like, Walter Rouse, eat. Savion Byrd, eat. Like, Andrew Rain, if you get bull rushed in this game and push backwards, what Kamiar said when we crossed over with him, get ready. Somebody's coming for your job. If you get bull rushed by this squad and knocked backwards, we got major problems. We got major problems. But I think Matauer will eat, and that Tyler Guyton should just be able to come straight down and just take the tackle in the end, just wipe them completely out. Like, that's what should happen.
He should be throwing like defensive linemen into the second level, basically. It's definitely going to be like like I said, it should be able to showcase what they can do, right? I mean, it's not going to be a great benchmark, but it's like some of the times these kind of games, for one, it's a good thing because you're going into SMU the week after, right? So you're gonna have a jump in talent of your opponent going into that game, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna have that, and it's also like, when you look at it, it's going to be like, you want to get them to get their confidence up, right? Like, you want to get them good game to get your cohesion, because it doesn't matter if you're able to bully people around. If you don't play as a cohesive unit, then things can still break. So I think it's a good thing. I mean, I'm excited to see. Please just give me. The only thing is, I just want the lunch pail. Bring your lunch pail. Knocks people on their butts. That's all I want to see. Like, even if it's against Arkansas State, So, and like you said, Raim is the guy. If I'm circling one guy, I know like people have talked about Matauer and some of the other guys. Dude, Raim's the guy that I'm circling on that spot. That I'm like, you got to show me something this season, not just in this game. Against, I mean, you really need to this game, but SMU, like, he's just not had, and we haven't even talked about some of his other stuff with him, but it's like, he's the guy that's got to really stand up, show leadership, show that he has ability, and impress the whole season.
Yeah. I this needs to be his year. Like, this has got to be the year, and if not, There's a reason why they brought some of the guys in that they have brought in, and they are going to be nipping at his heels, and he needs that. So let's try this then. What is the one thing that you would like to see, Jared, on the offense, and the one thing that you'd like to see from the defense? Like, what's the one thing you're watching this game and saying, I gotta see this happen for our defense, and I've gotta see this happen.
Do you want my defense first and then my offense, or?
Sure.
Oh man, I think defense. I want to see like extremely strong linebacker discipline. Good gap discipline, just good discipline throughout. Because this is the type of game where you should see that. Like, that's, to me, that's still something you can measure across the board, because you're playing a hostile opponent. This isn't scrimmage. This isn't whatever. You're playing an actual opponent. And that's something I think you can start to see. Is that going to be improved? I don't think that it was necessarily terrible at times last year. I don't think the whole season it was. There was times it was. So it's definitely going to be something that they need to show out on, and like I think really be that needs to be like tip top the whole game. And then offensively, I'm looking for Dillon Gabriel. I mean, I don't know how much he'll play. I mean, maybe he only plays a half or whatever. Hit a guy that's open. Like, if he overthrows somebody or completely misses somebody that's standing with 10 yards of green grass around him in every direction, I might lose it. Because that's the thing that was his big weakness last year. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to have Dillon Gabriel probably as the guy that I'm watching the most. Obviously, like the receivers and stuff too, but the biggest thing, the one thing I'm going to be watching is Gabriel.
Yeah. And I would just say, because I don't want to, you kind of took one of mine, but I want to, I keep saying this. I want to see Dillon Gabriel throw over the middle. I want to see even post routes. I want to see deep crossing routes. Like, I want to see him run that zone breaker where they come from the one side to the other. Even Levy does that sometimes in his offenses. But when it gets to the open part of the middle of the field, he doesn't see it. When we run RPOs to the tight end, he doesn't see it. And I need to see him throw to the middle of the field. And like you said, not overthrow it and hit his target. So defense first. Z in the chat says always defense first. So I'm going to say defense first as well. And so I would say here's the one thing I'm looking for. I really want to watch the linebackers. I really want to see I want to see what the depth really looks like in that room. And I want to see what Kip Lewis looks like with little 10 or 15 extra pounds on him. And is this a guy we can count on? I want to see Kobe McKenzie have a concrete filled with helmet coming through there. And I want to see them be fast, and I want to see them, really react and be physical. I think that that's probably on the defensive thing I'm watching the most, outside of obviously the defensive line that everybody wants to see. Offensively, obviously Gabriel is up there. Okay, I'm going to go off the beaten path here with this game.
Okay.
I want to see the tight end depth. For instance, I think we kind of know what Blake Smith is. Okay. He is literally a stopgap, right? But we do still have hope for Jason Llewellyn, who by all accounts is healthy now and has been getting reps the last few weeks. And look, Cade McIntyre is still in that room. And this is the guy that you and I, like early in the fall camp, said, hey, this is a guy that might need to step up. Now, look, he's undersized. He's still 225.
Yeah.
But let's see what he can he be Calcaterra for a freshman year, and then we put on 25 pounds on him in the off season, right?
Well, even look at there's been plenty of guys. Like you had Calcaterra, and then why am I, holy crap, I just blanked on
Braden Willis.
Braden Willis a little bit too, but why am I having like a stroke? I can't think of his name. Ravens. Like for the Ravens.
Mark Andrews. Sorry,
Mark Andrews. Why can I not think of that, dude? That's hurricane affected my brain. Mark Andrews wasn't the biggest guy his freshman year,
Right.
I mean, so he could be kind of that. I want to see if he can't start to fill that role of, he may not be a guy that's going to line up and blow somebody off the ball, like, in a blocking sort of scenario, but is he going to be that guy that's kind of like that fill between, like, that weird spot where he's kind of in that limbo land between receiver and tight end? You know what I mean? Like, where it's like he's bigger than a receiver, but he's not as big as a tight end, but he's got the movement of a receiver sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited to see that too.
Yeah. I would love to see. And look, if Caden Helms is healthy, let's get him out there. And look, Joe John Finley does not strike me as a guy that just says things to say them. You know what I mean? Like, he strikes me as very coach speak, right? But he said some pretty glowing remarks about the Faneuil kid too. That is the Cameron basketball transfer at tight end. His measurables look great. We've heard good things. We've just never seen him on the field. Like, look, and I'm not saying we're going to watch him and say he's the breakout tight end of the year, but if next year he could be a real body that you could use when Stogner's gone to combine with Davin Mitchell, I'm okay with that. So I think there's just, I feel like it's so funny. We went into the year really concerned about wide receiver, and the more that camp's gone along, I feel good, right? Like, I feel like we have enough bodies there to get by. Let me say it that way. I feel like we have enough there to get by.
I think it's the depth, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think we have a superstar in there. But I mean, I feel like there are 6 guys in that room that we can get open. Whereas at tight end right now, it's old man broken Stogner, right? And we don't really know what else is behind there. And so super interested to see that and get that going and all those things. So those are the 2 things I'm looking for. Jared, the more important thing is, what are you predicting for the score of said game?
It's the first game of the year. So I'm full hopium.
Okay.
I'm going to go 67 to 6.
Wow. Wowzer. Yeah, I'm okay. Well, you definitely have them covering. There is no doubt about that. Yeah, I'm not going that far. I can't do that. For me, I am going to go 52-13. So still a cover. Definitely still a cover, but I do think there'll be a bust as the backups start to work their way in that will let somebody get loose. And I think even maybe a couple others, but they're able to hold, right? And just they get a field goal out of it a couple times to get them to 13. So I'm going to say 52-13, but they call the dogs off, early in the fourth quarter, running clock, and just let's get out of here and let's get home. But it's probably like 35-3 or maybe even 38-3 at halftime kind of a thing. So somewhere in that neighborhood. Are there any other games on the schedule for this week that catch your eye? Because if you say Colorado and TCU, though, I'm going to punch you in the throat. Like, that game is not. Why is that interesting? Like,
it's Prime. It's Coach Prime, right? It's Dion. I mean, look, I'm definitely not a Dion fan by any stretch. But the dude knows how to stir. He's the Colin Cowherd of coaches. He knows how to stir the pot, and he knows how to get the spotlight and rile up everybody around him. So it is what it is, right?
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I know that there's this is the first week of football, so it's like, dude, I'm going to Saturday. I'm like, if I could, I'm on call for work, which I'm on call all the time, so it's not that big a deal now. But I'm going to basically, if I could, have just turned my phone off and literally just sit on my couch all day with like nothing but game day food. Like I've got the wings, I got everything. It's like, dude, I just want to watch football. I don't even care,
Right.
dude. Like it could be like Western Missouri Tech State University versus the Vienna Boys Choir. I'm gonna be watching it, dog. I'm gonna be watching it. So give me yours, and I'm gonna look up the schedule because I haven't even looked at the schedule,
Well,
honestly.
obviously, like the biggest game on the week, I would say, is LSU Florida, right? Week 1, right out the gate. They're playing on Sunday, not Saturday. LSU is favored by only 2.5. And look, both of these teams are getting a lot of hype early in the season. A lot of love. Brian Kelly turned his kind of season around, and I think they ended up winning their final 7 straight, I believe it was, on the season. Florida State brought a lot of guys back that a lot of people thought was going to the draft. They think their quarterback's a Heisman hopeful, all those different things. And so, yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest game.
Here's mine. I forgot that this game was this weekend, and I forgot it's actually tomorrow.
Oh,
Utah versus Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Because we don't know. I haven't heard if they've announced. They may have announced. I haven't been able to look this much at every other team's news. I don't know if Cameron Rising is going to be playing in the game, for one.
No one has said officially, but there's been several reports of most believe he is not going to play tomorrow.
Exactly. So I don't think he's going to play. But so from what I had heard from one of the Utah beat things or whatever was that their backup, they're like really kind of high on the backup kid. So I don't know. I just want to see, because Utah is a team that obviously you're going to need a quarterback play, but Utah is a team that I think it's kind of like, this is kind of like two teams that seem to be on the rise, right? Like Utah has definitely played at a higher level than they have in a long time.
Yeah.
And Utah, and by the way, Utah and OU fans have this whole mutual hate for USC, so I'm here for it. And then Florida is kind of the same way, as like they're on the rise. Like they've had some really good recruiting classes. They have some really high potential. That fan base is very hopeful for their future and thinks that they can make a little noise this year even. So it's kind of one of those, like I feel like whatever team wins this game is going to be one that could really start to they could make that claim that they're truly on the rise, even though it's the first game of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think you got to go with Florida if Cam Rising doesn't play. I mean, me personally, that's who I would circle for that one. If Cam Rising plays, I think that could be a real war there. So who do you have in those two games? I think those are the two most interesting. Who are you picking? Utah, Florida? Who are you picking? LSU, Florida State?
We had to pick two Florida schools, right? I'm gonna have I'm gonna have picketers outside my door. Man, okay, so I'll do LSU, Florida State. I'm gonna go Florida State.
Ooh.
The reason being is I do think that Florida State's finally kind of rooted out all the issues, I guess we'll just put it simply that way, that were left by Fisher when he left.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're finally are getting things right. Obviously, I mean, they had a great season last year. So I think that they have a really good chance. And I think LSU is I don't know. I think LSU has a lot of talent, but I don't know. I don't know that I buy as much of the hype as what everybody else is. So I'm going to go with them. And then my other one with Florida and Utah, I'm going to just go ahead and go again. We're going Hopium this week. I'm going to go Utah. I think, like I said, apparently they're high on that.
Backup.
They're high on that backup quarterback. They still have a very solid defense, I think, but most of their defense is returning. So yeah, I'm going to go Utah. But I think that one's going to that one could very easily be a dogfight. What about you?
Without Cam Rising, I can't pick Utah. I just can't. They lost some players too, Dalton Kincaid in the NFL and a few others. And so I think I'm going to go Florida in that game. very hard for me to root for a man who has killed someone and then tried to pretend to be Cajun for a night at a basketball game. Like that's really hard for me to root for. So I'm going to root for Florida State. Although the unemotional side of me says that LSU, I think, might actually have more talent. And again, a lot of people have said this, and I know that Florida State probably wasn't super motivated to play their best, but to watch a lackluster OU team go in there and really bludgeon them for 3 quarters, only to give up a field goal at the very end of the game to lose that one, just doesn't give me a lot of hope that team is as good as some people think, right? So
well, and
that's who I'm going with.
They're playing in, I mean, the ACC is still not strong, right? Like,
yeah,
it's Clemson and Florida State, and that's about all you got there now.
Well, I did find an ACC game that I would like to add just really quickly to our picks here. How about that? Drake May and the North Carolina Tar Heels will play South Carolina and the Fighting Beamer.
Okay.
Yeah. I did not realize that game was this
okay.
weekend.
Can I ask you this? I want to ask you this because I think.
Oh boy.
I think most people will cheer for Beamer, right?
Yes.
Most of you fans have a very good, and he even got caught out. We talked about that. We got caught out a little bit where he's like, there's nothing like it. Well, and had to kind of backtrack.
Well, I mean, nothing like it compared to South Carolina, because that's the great.
Yeah, I was like, good save. But I do love me some Beamer. Will you be cheering for Spencer Rattler this season? Will you be cheering for it? Let me put it this way. Will you be cheering for him, or will you be cheering for him on behalf of Beamer, basically? Like, will you cheering just so Beamer's successful?
It's definitely more cheering for him on behalf of Beamer, right? But look, man, like, I'm all about kids growing up. And I do feel like in some of the interviews and things I've seen with him, because I do kind of track South Carolina just because of Shane, right, being over there, it seems like he's grown up a little bit, right? I think he got humbled a little bit in all that he went through. And if he really did and he's really changed, then I want him to succeed. The guy's got unbelievable talent. Like, if he would just get his head screwed on straight, I think the guy could really have a long career in the NFL. And so, I'm rooting for him. But yes, I mean, if you're asking me which way that shapes, it's more so for him on behalf of Beamer. But I want him to succeed as well. Like, I don't have any ill will towards him. And look, let's be honest, a guy like Spencer Rattler was not helped by a non-culture building Lincoln Riley that really just kind of let him do whatever he wanted whenever he wanted. And I'm not going to punish the kid for that, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, and the thing is like, he's obviously made some comments about Oklahoma. But it's like, dude, our fan base cheered him off the field. Yeah. Or, rooted for him to get subbed out. Like, I don't know that I blame him too much for having a grudge. I hope it's one of those things that he can reconcile later on his career. But it's like, dude, that's still pretty fresh for him.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things, like, unless he came out and was like, man, like, like saying really negative stuff about OU all the time, then I'd be like, okay, you need to chill. But it's like, he really hasn't. Like, it's been when somebody specifically asked him, and even then he's tried to kind of swerve the question as much as he can. So like I said, I think he's grown up. I don't know that he's, 1,000% where he should be. But at the same time, it's like, I think Beamer's going to build a culture a lot better than what Lincoln had, and hold him more accountable. So yeah, I'm honestly like I said, I think I'm more on the behalf of Beamer, but at the same time, it's like, if he started really having a year, you know what I mean? Like, I'd start cheering for him. Like,
100%.
If he was, I don't think he's going to have like a Heisman year, right? But like, if he was, if I was watching him and he's playing, I don't even know who all South Carolina plays this year. Let's say South Carolina's playing Georgia or Bama or whoever, and he's having a game, I'm going to start cheering for the kid. I'm going to start cheering for him. So,
yes.
Anyway, but yeah, that was just, there's honestly a lot for a week one. I feel like there's a lot of actually really good games.
Yeah, there are some good ones. And as far as that game goes, I'm going with the Shaner, man. I think Shane's going to have prepared for multiple weeks for that game, pull some tricky stuff out, and they're going to turn it on, and they're going to destroy the darlings that are the North Carolina Tar Heels and Drake May's dreams of going to the playoff right there, which they could still come back and win the ACC, but I think they will dash them in that game, and Mac Brown
Well, can I
answer for Drake May.
Can I just ask, because I would also pick the Beamer boys.
Right? Nice.
But let me ask you this about Mac, because I don't want to talk I actually like Mac as a person. And even as a coach, I think he's pretty, he doesn't build a toxic culture necessarily.
No.
But we kind of saw things get away from him at Texas, and some of us were like, is that a Texas thing? Is that a Mac thing? My question to you is, do you think that because Mac Brown's at UNC that they've been overhyped every year, just like he was when he was at Texas?
No, I don't. I mean, if you really go back to his first year there, nobody really expected much out of them. And then they went on a run, right? And now, look, the guy he had there at quarterback is probably going to be starting for the Washington Commanders. I mean, they brought in some dudes, man. He's tried to wall off the state as much as he can. But look, Drake May is good. If Caleb Williams didn't exist, the talk that we would have about Drake May would be through the roof, right? But the reality is Caleb Williams is generational, and he's just overshadowed the kid. But I mean, it's that's going to be your 1-2 in the draft next year, right? Or those two guys. And so, yeah, no, I don't think that they're overhyped. The ACC is not any good, like we've said multiple times. It really is Clemson and Florida State and then North Carolina. And then that's it, right? So you get past one of those games, you got a great opportunity to go really far, to make a conference championship, et cetera, et cetera. I think they're fine. So.
Okay. I just was curious. I mean, I feel like there's been years that they've been overhyped. Overall, I think it's probably fine. I think this year, like you said, the ACC's, again, not good. It's one of those things, really, when you look at the ACC, Clemson should probably is the best team in that conference, right?
Should be, should be.
And if they are, it's it's really one team. There's plenty of other teams that I think have some potential. I don't think any of them are great, but it's
right.
if a North Carolina showed up and played Clemson and upset them, that's all they need, really.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
To be in the driver's seat. It's basically anybody shows up and surprises Clemson, they're kind of in the driver's seat from that point, because that conference just is not good.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, I would agree with that. So very, very good. Well, it is here. College football season is here. It is upon us. Matter of fact, it's here tomorrow. Right? I keep saying Saturday, but really it's here tomorrow. It's going. I know there was week 0 last week. I don't even, whatever. I don't count that.
Let me ask you this before we wrap.
Okay.
Are you cooking out anything? Are you doing any game day food? Are you doing anything for the game?
We keep going back and forth. The problem is I have a very full Friday. The original plan was me to smoke a pork shoulder and have smoke a pork shoulder on Friday and have pulled pork sandwiches. And then our game day treat is you take that pulled pork, sprinkle it on some chips, put a little cheese, put a little cilantro, a little bit of chopped purple onion on there, throw it in the oven and get it nice and crispy. The best nachos you will ever have, my friend. So that was the original plan, but I don't know that we'll have the time. So
that actually has got me where I'm going to try something. I'm going to experiment this year a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Because I saw somebody that did this and I don't know how well it's going to work, but we're going to try it. So I'm thinking about doing smoking some pork, right?
Yep.
And then I'm thinking about taking that and putting it into portion of that and shredding it and putting it in my queso with some pork sausage. And I usually do pork sausage and hamburger and then rotel. I've even the last couple of years done diced jalapenos in there for a little bit of kick.
Heck yeah.
So I always like to make a bunch of queso. So I'm probably gonna do that. I'm probably gonna do wings. And then I don't know if I'll, like I said, I'll do the pork, and so I'll have that for kind of being able to do pulled pork sandwiches or whatever. But I'm like very much a person, like I'm like Jabba the Hutt on game day, dude. It's like I sit around and eat all freaking day. Like I'm just a blob. But it's like that's why I like to cook those sorts of things. But I'm excited, dude. Like we get to watch football. We actually get to like cook out again. Like it's here, guys. Like it's so hard to believe. Why is it so hard to believe that it's here?
By the way, I did not plan on doing this, but I'm going to do it now. Little humble brag very quickly. To our tailgate barbecue contest that we had last Saturday. My wings finished second place, which I felt very good about. I felt well about, considering I was running the event and cooking at the exact same time.
Home field advantage. Home field advantage.
No one knew they were my wings, by the way. Number two, here's the other side. When Curtis Lofton showed up for the day, he kind of snuck in the back door. We were like, hey, have you had lunch? He's like, no, dude, ESPN's been at my house all day. We were like, what? And he's like, yeah, they're doing this whole Where Are They Now series. And so they're doing a story on me and my family. So he said, they've been at my house since 7. So I have not eaten anything. I told them, look, y'all have to wrap up. I have to be somewhere right now. And I was like, well, dude, there's a little bit of food left. So he kind of goes around and goes, let me sample some things and I'll see what belongs to you. And I was like, okay. So he kind of goes through and takes some samplings and he's like, whoa, these wings, man, these wings. He goes back, he cleans out the rest of the wings. Totally cleaned them out. Was like, dude, those wings, like, did somebody grill these? Are these smoked? What are they? I was like, those are smoked wings. And he goes, how'd they get so crispy? I was like, well, I got a little. He goes, oh, these are yours? And I was like, yeah, they are. And he goes, okay, those are good. And I was like, okay, that's all I needed. Curtis Lofton approved. I'm in. Like, I don't care if it's home field advantage or not. That was legit. And the chicken I lost to was fantastic. The guy brought whole spatchcock chickens, and they were
legit.
Amazing. Yeah, it was really good.
You know what's funny is I need to go in. I've got to when I'm going to be back in Oklahoma next week.
Yeah, you are.
And we need to make a run over to Cosmos. So I can go in there and be like, dude, like every person in Florida, I've been like, dude, you got to try this rub. I got to try that. You got to try this rub. My boy Kiwi, he lives in Utah now, going to school out there. And he's a big cook and all that stuff. Pretty sure he's ordered like 5 of the different Cosmos rubs. So anyway, but yeah, very hyped for the food. So that's awesome though. Let's just get Curtis on here. Let's just kick you on, put Curtis on the pod.
I'm working my way there. I'm working my way to be brave enough to ask him to even come on. He kind of scares me and intimidates me a little bit, so I'm gonna wait and see. But
if you weren't built like a 12-year-old boy, then maybe you wouldn't be so scared of.
Dude, it wouldn't matter what I was built like, bro. Like I'm not. I'm not going. And as he even said, as he spoke at our church, I have very heavy hands and I will throw them if you disrespect me. It's like, okay, well, I don't want any of that.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, that'd be awesome. That's pretty awesome, dude. He was one of our favorites when he was at OU. We loved him. So
he was amazing.
I'm hoping that's another thing that we talked about real quick before we wrap. What they think about that? What do you think about all the linebackers that came through with Venables that Venables recruited stuff? Where you had Rufus, you had Curtis, you had you obviously Rocky and Teddy, Travis
Marshall,
Lewis, Torrance Marshall.
Why can't I not think Keenan Clayton? Was that his name?
Maybe I don't.
He definitely played in the Florida National. He was kind of a thinner safety hybrid.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know if he was he at linebacker or did he play like
he's a linebacker. I mean, I think it was kind of
he was like hybrid
cheetah. Yeah, he was very hybrid like. He was the one that was 3 inches away from knocking the jump pass from Tim Tebow away. Yeah. That sealed the game in that one. But he was great. Lewis Baker. Oh my gosh, Lewis Baker, Curtis Lofton. Heck, Tom Wart, as much as maybe didn't live up all, but man,
dude, he could lay the lumber, dude. Yes. So yeah, I'm just excited to see that. I mean, obviously there's other position groups we could highlight, safety, Roy Williams, all those guys, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if you really sit down and look at all the guys, as much as I've seen other fan bases like haha, OU got Brent Venables. Everybody's trying to rip Brent Venables right now. I'm like, dude, when it comes to what he's produced, you can't question that guy. You cannot question that guy. So yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully, maybe we'll talk. Maybe in 10 years we'll be talking about Danny Stutzman or Kanik or Kobe McKenzie or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
well, and very quickly, we haven't talked about on this pod, but David Stone, a huge get. Speaking of which, the one thing Brent Venables can do is recruit, and there is a lot of smoke right now that Dominic McKinley is kind of back and forth between us and Texas right now, is what it sounds like. We don't know that for sure. I have been very bullish that I believe that Dominic McKinley will end up with OU. Again, I don't know his cousin. I haven't talked to his coach. I'm no insider. Just reading the tea leaves of a couple things, looking at it, from just my outside perspective of looking at it all. I think OU has a very good chance to land McKinley, and if they do, man, what a turn of events from us being just ready to go scorched earth and all things recruiting. And there's a real chance now that you could be landing in the next couple of weeks David Stone, Dominic McKinley, and Nigel Smith, all in the course of about 2 to 3 weeks would be a icing on the cake. But again, you cannot deny that this staff knows how to recruit, and they are doing a dang good job of building this roster back up.
Yeah, I mean, going to the SEC, you're gonna have to be up there. There's a good chance. Like, I think right now we moved up to what? Like, we're like 12th or 13th, depending on what service. Like, we're in that just outside
11 to 13 range. Yeah, 11 to 13 range.
Just outside the 10. But it's like, dude, if you get some of these guys in the boat, I don't think they're gonna be like some people have been saying top 5 or something. I was like, I don't think we'll be top 5, but we could be well into the top 10. It all
hinges on Noweri.
Yeah.
If you believe that there's really a chance that they can keep recruiting him and get him back in the boat, then that changes everything. If that happens, there's a chance for top 5. If not, 7, 9, somewhere in there. But still, that's great.
It's going to be. I mean, and here's the thing that I just want to highlight. We've talked about this. We talked about this cameo. We talked about this last week. You're going to have to recruit all these guys at the end. They're going to have a good season.
Yes.
There's a lot of factors. So it's like, let's not turn into that fan base that thinks that we're winning the championship trophy in September or whatever. Like, it's like, it's until the end of the cycle, till there's ink on the paper, as we've seen with Peyton Bowen. It does not matter who you're committed to. And that's just the day and age we live in. We could end up with Noweri. We could end up with all those guys, or we could end up with none of them. Like, any of those are possible scenarios. Yeah. So, and Sooner Nation, just don't turn into that fan base that one guy, we miss on one guy. That's what drove me nuts. We missed on Noweri or whatever. He goes to Mizzou or commits to Mizzou. And everybody's like, oh my God, we lost another one. This is like, and it's like, guys, like, this is what's going to happen. You think Alabama or Georgia gets every single 5-star they go after? They miss on them on occasion too. Now they land a lot of them.
Right.
But again, they miss on them too. And their fan base isn't like, oh, well, we missed on Noweri, so the season's over.
Kind of. I mean, they're pretty.
Not to the same level that I feel like, I was seeing people being like, literally we missed on Noweri, and like our recruiting still sucks. And I'm like,
but again, you gotta, I'm with you. I agree with you. Right. I agree with you. But I think we all felt that, man, we haven't been able to get 5-star linemen in the past. We thought we were going to get them now. We thought we had David Hicks, and then literally 30 minutes before he changed, we thought we had Noweri, and apparently the day before he changed, right? Like, it was just snowballing in that we're winning. Oh, they're going somewhere else, right? We're winning. And that's what had people all. But yes, that's 5-star recruiting. That is 5-star recruiting.
And nobody knows. Nobody knows besides. I would bet that there's even parents of the kids that don't know where their kid's going. Right.
Oh, there are sometimes that's happening.
So like, if you have a beat writer or whoever, I'm not trying to dog on anybody. I'm not trying to get in some drama where I have everybody subtweeting each other, but nobody knows. They're giving their best guess. That's all they can do. Right. Yeah. So people that come and say, well, we know that so-and-so is going to Oklahoma or Texas or wherever, they don't know. Kid could, if you think of yourself again, I say this a million times, think of yourself when you're 16, 17 years old. Your decision changed with the win, right? So while this is big life decisions, it's the same with these kids. And especially just with the today's age of recruiting, it's even more so. It is going to be what it is. So, but I'm excited. Like I said, they are recruiting. They're in on the fights with guys that they wouldn't have been in on 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm excited. Let's see some grown men just absolutely hit each other this weekend. Let's hope for a good season, and let's hope that they can keep those guys in the boat.
Yeah, 100%. So, well, that's it for today. Again, you heard it here. Jared's got us winning by 60 something points. I've got us winning by 39 points this weekend. We've got some different upsets through the week, so it's going to be fun. It's exciting to have back. We will try our very best this weekend to have a recap of what we saw in the game this weekend. So be sure that you look for that. And so all that said, if you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, and follow. That helps us. Again, we try to get interviews going, but the big help we need is those 5-star reviews, and we need those subscriptions to help us be able to get us in the door to get some of those things for you. But man, we would sure like to do it. We're having a great time. We hope you are too. And so we will talk to you guys later.